Let's bring in our guest to discuss this hour. National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar is with us. Michael, this is a case where we've got a defendant who has told many stories. Her defense put forward separate theories, but now this jury has the theory of her daughter firing a shot at 7 years old, her former lover firing a shot and killing her husband, and Laurie Shaver says she didn't have anything to do with it. What's the one thing in this trial that you think a juror is going to have a real difficult time getting over if they are trying to believe Laurie Shaver?
This is sensory overload, right? This is sensory overload. So at the beginning of this case, the case was very, very, very clear, and the evidence pointed to Laurie Shaver. As the case went, it got muddied and muddied and muddied. Just so viewers know, just so they look behind it, defense attorneys that a case comes to them right after the incident so they can control what the client says, what the defendant says, and they can control the narrative. But obviously, that's not possible. So in this case, they inherited a case where there were so many theories out there, and the water was so muddied that I don't know what a jury's going to come up with. So the way I think about it is, I think jurors made up their mind when they saw, initially when they saw the testimony of the lieutenant that made the arrest. I think when they saw the way she interacted with Laurie Shaver's defense attorney, this is when the prosecution had the case. To me, I went away from that with the thought that there is no way that defense attorney is going to overcome what he inherited, and I don't think he did. I think he did a fantastic job, but I don't think any attorney could. You could put me on an island, Julia, and you can give me 10 years to prepare for this case. I could be the attorney and the paralegal and the investigator on the case. I could come to trial on day one, and I don't think I would be as more prepared than her attorney was. I just feel like it was a mountain of confusion and cloud. If a bunch of robots were on that jury, I think there would be some reasonable doubt for the robot, because the robot would say, well, there's all these other theories, but I don't think there was anything credible. So I think that she's going to get convicted.
Let's listen to the daughter, though, her testimony. I want to play that, and then we can talk about that on the other side. All right, Michael, when you listen to the daughter on the stand, I mean, she clearly is saying that the ex-boyfriend is responsible for this. She took responsibility as well. Do you find her credible? I mean, these jurors, they really are going to have to take a look at the credibility of these witnesses and really, obviously, come up with a determination here. But I don't know. I mean, you listen to that daughter, you listen to Laurie, but the boyfriend is saying he had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, like I said, if there was robots on the jury, I think they would find reasonable doubt, right? But there's human beings on the jury, and I don't think the human beings are going to take any stock into what the daughter said. I remember I was on vacation with my kids when they were the oldest one was under 6 in Florida, and he made a mistake. He dropped a stone from a balcony. It just fell on the floor and didn't hurt anybody. Had it hurt somebody, because he's under 7 in the state of Florida, I would have been responsible, right? So the state of Florida, there's finicky laws on when the parent is responsible for the actions of their kids, right? At the end of the day, the daughter did not own the gun. The daughter did not bring the gun into the conversation. I don't think a jury is going to believe that the daughter was the person who killed her dad. And anyway, the theory is not that the daughter killed the dad, it's that the daughter began and she shot, and then the boyfriend picked up the gun and finished the incident. I just don't think it's believable, right? If a robot's on that jury and they found that what the daughter said credible, there would be reasonable doubt as to whether or not Laurie intended, to kill her husband and killed Michael, right? It's just, I just don't think a jury, there's just something about it. There's the nature of when you say my kid killed her, there's just something about it. And she began the maneuver, but she didn't complete the maneuver, because the maneuver required the boyfriend to step in and say, I defended her and I killed him, but he's saying it had nothing to do with it. So this is a tough one. I know, I can see why this case has reached national attention, because it's a very curious case. It's a very curious fact pattern, but it's tough, man. Anytime a 7-year-old is saying they killed a parent, it's so difficult. I don't know. I really don't know what the jury's going to do. I just don't think that they were able to overcome her covering it up, her burying him. I mean, she buried him. She used his card. She used his Facebook account. Like, she pretended to be him. She impersonated him. She lied about him. She gave away his tools to the neighbors and said he's not coming back. I don't know. It's a tough one. This is tough. I don't think she's going to overcome the. I think the prosecution met their burden. I don't think the defense stopped them.
It's another one of those where we do not regret or do not wish that we were on this jury. We don't envy them at all because this is a difficult decision. And it sounds like you're saying, Michael, that the cover-up is almost worse than the crime itself. I mean, if she had probably come forward at this time, we'd have a very different case. There would be the self-defense allegation. It'd be an Ashley Benefield type case, but we've got all of this for years that was kept quiet, that was literally buried, and we've got whether or not Jeremy Townsend is telling the truth or is Laurie and her daughter telling the truth. Let's go back to the moment that Jerry Townsend denied what the defense has said he is responsible for. We're about to hear closing arguments in this case, Michael. Anything that you think the defense needs to do? Because it sounds like you say the prosecution has this wrapped up and ready to go.
The defense are going to have to argue their case, and they're going to have to say, listen, if you see that there's any doubt that the prosecution met every single element of their burden, you have you're not trying to say that she's innocent. You're trying to say that she's not guilty. There's a difference, right? And at the end of the day, the daughter needs her mom, and it's not just for the mom to go to jail for the rest of her life and the mom and the daughter be robbed of it when the mom did everything she can to protect her daughter, protect herself. They had a violent relationship. They had an abusive relationship. What else can she do? There's nothing else she can do. After her daughter murdered her dad, what's the mom going to do? Out her daughter? I mean, you're just going to have to very eloquently and very empathetically deliver that message. But the defense are going to have to argue their case. Even though it's the prosecution's burden, I believe that if I'm the defense attorney and I'm at lunch right now, the prosecution have met their burden. We have to overcome their prima facie case. To do that, we have to argue the case in a very empathetic way to show that our client, the defendant, Laurie Shaver, did not intend to kill her husband and did not actually do it. It's very simple.
Yeah, well, we'll hear what they come up with because closing arguments are coming up really quickly. All right, Michael, thank you so much.
Let's bring in trial attorney Michael Jaafar, who's standing by watching with us. We're hitting the pause button on those closing arguments, Michael, but the prosecution is able to use as fodder what she said on the stand. Are you surprised that Laurie Shaver decided to tell her own story when there are so many problems?
I was surprised that she took the stand. I have to defer to her attorney because he did such a fantastic job, but I was surprised that she took the stand. She did not acquit herself well. And so this jury's, there's something about the state of Florida, Julia, they're turning out these mind-bending cerebral cases for juries to decide. It's going to be difficult. So for me, I believe that the cover-up is going to completely destroy and catapult her case. Everybody knows the name Richard Nixon. Well, most people know is that Richard Nixon had nothing to do with the Watergate break-in. What it was that he covered it up, and then he had to resign as president. The reason I say that is because there's something in the American mindset, and these jurors are going to have it, where when you cover up something, you are just guilty in their mind. There's just something in the American mindset where if you are caught covering something up as viciously as she did and for years and years and years, right? So this murder happened almost a decade ago, and then she took the stand, and it was also disorienting that she's been out on bond since 2020. That's before the pandemic started. It's almost half a decade that she's been charged with murder and she's been out. So this whole case has just been cerebral and mind-bending. And so I'm gripped to the TV. I want to see what I want to see what her attorney's going to say in his closing, because he's got to argue the case. That's what the closing arguments are, right? You're arguing the case. You're not putting in evidence during the case, but you're arguing the evidence to the jury before they go to make a decision. So I was baffled. I'm glad you asked me that. I was baffled that she took the stand, and I don't know if she acquitted herself well on the stand. So we'll see what happens.
We're getting closer and closer to seeing what her defense is going to say. We're going to